Premier says e-tolls are receiving national attention. David Makhura delivered the State of the Province address a little earlier in the day. Makhura says he's received assurances from the President, and he says those assurances make it clear that the unpopular tolls will be addressed. Let's get the latest from our reporter, Samkele Maseko, who was watching that State of the Province address. Sam, interesting that Makhura says he's gotten assurances from the President. The devil's in the detail. What assurances has he been given?
Well, at this point in time, Kathy, he did not go into details about his engagements with the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, in terms of e-tolls. You'd remember that the ANC in Gauteng, since the days of its former provincial chairperson, now Treasurer General of the ANC, Paul Mashatile, they've been very consistent. They've got a conference resolution that e-tolls must be scrapped as they add an economic burden to the already indebted, largely black middle class, saying that it increases the cost of living and it must be scrapped. Makhura going into detail about the economic circumstances and the economic outcomes this has had on the citizens of Gauteng, saying it's been an economic burden on them, that e-tolls must be scrapped, going on to saying that he has that assurance from the President of the Republic of South Africa that there is a high panel that is currently working to try and find solutions to this economic impasse that the Gauteng citizens, predominantly the so-called black middle class, finds themselves burdened with the high cost of living, especially since the introduction of e-tolls, which are very few citizens here in Gauteng pay for. David Makhura saying they're working on that and they shall be scrapped, saying that e-tolls and e-tolling paying system in urban areas has no future in this province of Gauteng, which is rather detailed, looking at how that e-tolls have largely been failed for the Gauteng provincial government to scrap, prompting the newly elected provincial secretary of the ANC in Gauteng, Jacob Kawe, to pin down an emotional letter to the President of the Republic, saying that they are largely disappointed that he did not outline the issue of e-tolls in his State of the Nation address.
All right. What else did the Premier have to point out? Of course, it's his last State of the Province address. What does he have to show for his term in office?
He basically went through what they have achieved as the provincial government of this fifth administration, looking at their mega cities projects, township revitalization through its township economies, and also looking at their own misgivings and their own misfortunes in government, having very harsh words for the late the former minister of, the former MEC of health there. I mistakenly said late. She's not late. She's rather the former MEC of health. That is Etani Matangu, saying that basically hard decisions and stubbornness led to various decisions being taken by those who have meant to be protecting citizens and rather not putting them first in terms of life as a demini, saying whatever happened with life as a demini does not represent the views of the provincial government of the ANC and the ANC itself, and that those who need to be held accountable for the psychiatric patients that died through the tragedy of life as a demini will be held to book and will be prosecuted and arrested.
And from the opposition's perspective, you know, last week when we had the State of the Province address in the Western Cape, we saw the opposition making quite a strong showing and pointing out what some of the failures of the DA government in that province has been. Have we had anything similar today where you have a very vocal opposition?
Well, in the chambers where this State of the Province was taking place, you had a very subdued opposition in the form of the IFP, the AIC, the Democratic Alliance and the Economic Freedom Fighters. There were murmurs here and there during Premier David Makhura's address. You'd remember the EFF has been very vocal in these legislatures and in the National Assembly. But, for instance, today in this sitting, they sat throughout the whole State of the Province address. They never walked out. I remember Mandisa Mashiko standing up at some point and trying to debate the issue of e-tolls, saying that Premier David Makhura is misleading the House and is lying about the issue of e-tolls, saying that the President of the Republic, Cyril Ramaphosa, didn't say anything about e-tolls in his State of the Nation address. Also, John Moody of the Democratic Alliance saying that it's usual ANC promising and making sweet promises and accounting and speaking about promises they made about 5-6 years ago, and nothing till this day has come to fruition out of all those promises. And Premier Hopeful from the Democratic Alliance, Soli Msimanga, who's just resigned as the mayor of Tshwane, also saying that David Makhura is making empty promises. He's never delivered on anything that he has promised. E-tolls are here and e-tolls are not going anywhere in his tenure, which is rather surprising because he himself, when he was campaigning to be the mayor of Tshwane, he said he would remove e-tolls, but e-tolls are still here today. Is the Democratic Alliance and the ANC lying to the people about e-tolls? Only time will tell there, Kathy.
All right, Samkele Maseko, let's leave it there. Sam was watching that State of the Province address given by Gauteng's Premier David Makhura.